When I logged into our joint account, the balance said $22.14. 2 days earlier, it had $128,386. My wife had already filed for divorce. She thought she'd taken everything. She forgot one thing: I'm an accountant. And accountants notice these things. I knew immediately what she had done. And what she didn't know was that she left a trail I could follow. My name is Kyle Mercer, and I'm 38 years old. I've been a senior accountant for 14 years. If you think you can hide $128,000 from me, you've got another thing coming. I met Amanda Whitfield at a work event in downtown Nashville in the spring of 2015. She was sharp, funny, and more driven than anyone I had ever dated. She had just gotten her real estate license and was full of big plans. I was drawn to that energy. We dated for a year, got engaged in the fall of 2015, and married in June 2016 at a small ceremony at Cheekwood Gardens on the west side of Nashville. Her parents were there, my parents were there, and everything felt like the beginning of something real. For the first few years, things were good. I was earning $94,000 a year as a senior accountant at a logistics firm called Bridgepoint Freight Solutions on Charlotte Avenue. Amanda was grinding away in real estate, building her client list one listing at a time. Her income was up and down, some months great, some months thin, but together we were comfortable. In 2018, we bought a 3-bedroom house in Bellevue, a quiet neighborhood on the western edge of Nashville. $347,000. We put down $70,000 and split the mortgage equally. We painted the living room together on a Saturday, ordered pizza, and talked about the future until midnight. That was us at our best. By 2022, Amanda's real estate career had taken off. Nashville's housing market was on fire, and she was riding the wave. She joined a bigger agency called Pinnacle Realty Group on West End Avenue, got access to higher-end listings, and started closing deals I never would have imagined when we first got together. Her commissions jumped. I was proud of her, genuinely proud. I should have paid closer attention to what was happening alongside that success. Looking back now, the changes started in early 2023. Small things at first. Amanda started coming home later from property showings, sometimes past 9 at night. She bought new clothes, not the kind for client meetings, but the kind you buy when you want someone to notice you. She started going to a gym on the other side of town instead of the 1-2 blocks from our house. She put a passcode on her phone for the first time in 7 years of being together. I noticed. I am an accountant. I notice things that don't add up. But I told myself stories. She was busy. The market was demanding. She had new clients with evening schedules. She needed her privacy. I had no proof of anything, and I was not the kind of man to go through someone's phone or hire a private detective based on a feeling. My father had always told me, don't accuse, don't assume, don't react until you know. So I watched, and I waited. By March 2024, something else started to bother me. Our joint savings account, which we had agreed to keep stocked with at least $50,000 as an emergency fund, was dropping. Not dramatically, just quietly. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. The kind of movement that looks like normal spending if you aren't watching closely. But I was watching closely because that is what I do. I printed the last 6 months of statements and sat at the kitchen table on a Wednesday night while Amanda was out showing a property on Hillsborough Pike. I made a simple table on a legal pad. Deposits, withdrawals, dates. The withdrawals didn't match our bills. They didn't match our lifestyle. And they were always made on days when Amanda was the only one who had used the card. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I photographed the statements with my phone and saved them to a personal cloud account that only I knew about. Then I put the printed copies back in the folder, made myself a cup of coffee, and went to bed before Amanda got home. That was April 3rd, 2024, 6 weeks before she served me with divorce papers. It was a Wednesday evening, May 15th, 2024. I came home from work at 5:45 p.m. to find Amanda sitting at the kitchen table with an envelope in her hands. She was dressed nicely, not work clothes but not casual either, like she had prepared for something. She looked calm in a way that felt rehearsed. "Kyle," she said, "I need to give you something." She slid the envelope across the table. Inside was a set of divorce papers, already filed with the Davidson County Circuit Court. She had hired an attorney named Gwen Partridge from a family law firm on 2nd Avenue North. The papers cited irreconcilable differences. They were dated May 13, 2024, 2 days before she handed them to me. She had been sitting on them for 2 days. "I've already handled everything," she said, her voice steady. "I think it's better if we just make this clean. The accounts, the assets, I've taken care of it. You'll be okay." There was something in the way she said that last part. Not reassurance. Permission. Like she was giving me permission to be okay with what she had decided. She folded her hands on the table. "You're not the kind of person who makes things messy, Kyle. I know that. So let's just not." I sat down slowly across from her. I looked at the papers. I looked at her, the woman I had painted a living room with. The woman who had stood in a garden in 2016 and promised things she clearly no longer believed. And I asked one question. "Where are you staying tonight?" She said she was going to her friend Donna's place in Brentwood. She had already packed 2 suitcases, which I noticed for the first time were sitting by the front door. She left within 20 minutes. No argument, no tears, just a quiet exit, like someone who had already made peace with a decision long before telling the other person about it. When the door clicked shut behind her, I sat still at the kitchen table for a long moment. Then I opened my laptop and logged into our joint checking account at First Tennessee Bank. Balance: $22.14. 2 days ago, that account had held $67,400. I checked the savings account. Balance: $0. It had held $61,000. In 2 days, Amanda had moved $128,386 out of our joint accounts. Every transfer listed a receiving account I had never seen before. I closed the laptop. I did not panic. I did not call her. I did not throw anything or shout at the walls. I just sat there in the quiet kitchen of the house we had painted together, and I let the full picture come into focus. She had planned this. This was not a sudden decision. The late nights, the new clothes, the quiet withdrawals. It was all part of something she had been building for a long time. She thought she had taken everything, packed her bags, and walked out the door, and she had clearly expected me to be too stunned or too defeated to do anything about it. That was her mistake. She forgot who she married. I got up to get a glass of water. On my way past the home office, I stopped. The printer on the desk had a small light blinking, the kind it blinks when a page is sitting in the output tray that no one has picked up. I lifted the single sheet of paper. It was a wire transfer confirmation, printed from our home computer. The date at the top was May 13, 2024, the same day she filed the divorce papers. The amount was $47,000. The receiving account was listed under a name I didn't recognize. AW Holdings LLC. Amanda Whitfield, her maiden name. I stood in the doorway of that home office for a long time, holding that piece of paper under the desk lamp. That was the moment I understood she hadn't just left me. She had been building an exit for years. The late showings, the gym across town, the passcode on her phone. Those weren't signs of an affair. They were the visible edges of an entire second financial life I had never been told about. She had walked out of this house 20 minutes earlier, calm and rehearsed, because she believed the work was done. The money was moved. The accounts were hidden. The paperwork was filed. And I, steady, loyal Kyle, would be too hurt or too decent or too slow to do anything about it. It wasn't shock that I felt standing there. It was the cold, precise understanding of having been fundamentally misread by someone who thought they knew me. I photographed the receipt from 3 different angles and placed it carefully inside a manila folder in the filing cabinet. I didn't sleep much that night, but I wasn't sad. I was focused. The next morning, Thursday, May 16th, I called Paul Scott. Paul was a divorce and family law attorney I had heard about through a colleague at Bridgepoint. He had an office on Union Street in downtown Nashville and a reputation for being methodical and unshakable in court. His consultation fee was $400 for the first hour. I was in his office by 9:30 a.m. I laid everything on his desk. The printed bank statements from the last 6 months. The photos of the joint account withdrawals. the wire transfer receipt from the printer tray, my own notes from the legal pad, dates, amounts, patterns. Paul studied each document carefully. He asked me a series of quiet, precise questions. When did the withdrawals start? Was this the first time I had seen the name AW Holdings LLC? Did Amanda have any business registered in her name or maiden name that I knew of? I told him no, not that I knew of. Paul leaned back in his chair. An LLC in her maiden name, funded with marital assets, opened during the marriage. If that entity has been receiving income that should have been considered marital income, she has a serious problem. He paused. That said, we don't know the full picture yet. This could be straightforward misdirection, or it could be more complicated. We need to find out what's in that account before we know what we're actually dealing with. How do we do that? Subpoenas, discovery, a forensic accountant, and patience, because the court is not going to move fast, and Amanda's attorney is going to fight every step. He looked at me steadily. This is going to cost money and take time. I want you to understand that before we go any further. I nodded. I understand. Paul filed a formal response to the divorce petition on May 20th, 2024. He requested full financial disclosure from Amanda, including all business entities, all accounts, and all income received over the previous 3 years. He also requested a court order freezing any further movement of marital assets pending the outcome of proceedings. Amanda's attorney, Gwen Partridge, responded within a week. She argued the joint account withdrawals were simply Amanda protecting her own share of marital assets. She made no mention of AW Holdings LLC in her disclosures. That silence told us something, but we had a long way to go before we could prove what it meant. On June 3, 2024, Paul brought in Irene Chase. Irene was a forensic accountant based in Brentwood, methodical, thorough, and entirely unimpressed by complexity. She had spent 15 years reviewing financial records for state litigation before opening her own consulting firm. When I handed her the wire transfer receipt and the account statements, she studied them without drama. One LLC registration, she said. Let's find out what it holds. The subpoenas took time. Everything took time. June passed in a slow grind of document requests, response extensions, and procedural back and forth. Gwen Partridge filed a motion arguing the discovery requests were overly broad. The judge denied it, but granted Amanda's side an additional 2 weeks to produce records. Paul warned me this was normal. This is what the other side does, he said. They slow walk. They object. They wait for you to get frustrated and settle. Don't get frustrated. Don't settle. I went to work every morning. I ran my spreadsheets. I came home to a house that felt too quiet and too large, and I reminded myself every evening that the math was on my side. I just had to wait for it to come out. In late June, the Secretary of State's records came back. AW Holdings LLC had been registered on August 14, 2022, around the time Amanda joined Pinnacle Realty Group. The registered agent was listed as an attorney's office, which was standard. But what caught Irene's attention was something quieter. The LLC had been set up as a commission-holding entity, the kind of structure some agents use for legitimate tax planning. This wasn't built to hide money from the start, Irene told me. It was built to manage commissions, probably for real reasons at first. What matters is what happened to it later. What happened to it later arrived when Reliant Bank finally produced the subpoenaed records in mid-July. The LLC account showed a total of $340,000 in wire transfers received between September 2022 and May 2024. Every dollar had come from the holding company Pinnacle Realty Group used to distribute agent commissions. Amanda had arranged, at some point after joining the agency, to have her commissions deposited into the LLC account rather than her personal account. The discrepancy that mattered: her personal tax returns for 2022 and 2023 listed commission income of $28,000 and $31,000 respectively. The LLC had received more than 10 times that over the same period. The rest had simply never been reported as personal income. In Tennessee, Irene said, folding her hands on Paul's conference table, income earned during marriage is marital property. All of it. Whether it goes into a joint account, a personal account, or a business entity, the legal classification doesn't change. How much is subject to equitable distribution? Paul asked. All $340,000 earned since September 2022. She was married. It was income. That's the whole analysis. I sat with that for a moment. Then I said, she thought she was being careful. She was being careful, Irene said. She just forgot that careful and invisible are different things. The first formal hearing was scheduled for August 7, 2024, before Judge Carol Bryan of Davidson County Circuit Court. Paul prepared me the night before over a phone call that lasted 40 minutes. He walked me through what to expect, and then he said something I hadn't anticipated. Kyle, I want you to be ready for the possibility that nothing gets resolved tomorrow. Bryan is thorough. She's not going to rule on asset division at an interim hearing when the full picture hasn't been established yet. What we're hoping for is an adverse inference instruction and an order compelling full disclosure. That's a win, even if it doesn't feel like one. I was quiet for a moment. What's an adverse inference instruction? It means the judge can instruct herself, and ultimately a jury if it came to that, though it won't, to assume the worst about the missing information. If Amanda can't explain where the money went or why the LLC wasn't disclosed, the court is permitted to draw negative conclusions from that silence. That's not nothing, I said. It's not nothing, he agreed. But it's not everything. Manage your expectations. I did not sleep well that night. The hearing was tense and inconclusive in exactly the way Paul had predicted. Gwen Partridge argued that the LLC was a legitimate business entity and that its finances had no bearing on the divorce proceedings. Paul walked Judge Bryan through the transfer records and the tax return discrepancy. Judge Bryan listened without expression. At the end of the hearing, she did not rule on asset division. She ordered Amanda to produce a complete accounting of AW Holdings LLC within 30 days, including all bank statements, all transfer records, and a sworn affidavit from Amanda describing the nature and purpose of the LLC. She also issued an order freezing the LLC's remaining funds pending further proceedings. Partridge objected. Judge Bryan said, "Noted," and moved on. I walked out of the courthouse with Paul on a hot August afternoon feeling something I hadn't expected to feel. Not victory, not defeat, but the particular weight of a process that was moving in the right direction, slowly, and on its own terms. That's actually a very good result, Paul told me. It didn't feel like one, I said. It never does at this stage. Wait for the affidavit. The affidavit arrived at Paul's office on September 4, 2024, 4 days before the deadline. Amanda stated under oath that AW Holdings LLC had been established for legitimate commission management purposes. She described it as a tax planning structure used by many real estate agents. She acknowledged that commissions had been deposited into the account, but argued those commissions represented professional income that had been reinvested in business expenses. She listed $87,000 in claimed business expenses over the LLC's operational period. Irene reviewed the affidavit that same day and called Paul by evening. The claimed expenses are $87,000 against $340,000 in received commissions. Even if we grant every expense she lists, there is $253,000 in the account that she has not accounted for. More importantly, the expenses she listed, software subscriptions, marketing, a vehicle lease, some of these were already claimed on her personal tax returns. She is double counting. Paul leaned back in his chair when he reported this to me. That's when Irene looked up from the report and said 5 words that changed everything. She lied under oath. I felt it immediately. Every wire transfer, every deposit, every withdrawal, it all made sense now. Months of careful tracking, every late-night calculation, every note on a legal pad. They were finally paying off. The numbers didn't lie. The trail was clear. Amanda thought she had hidden it all. She had underestimated the one person who thrives on details, the one person who notices what doesn't add up. I was calm, precise, and ready. The math was on my side. No shouting, no confrontation, just patience, planning, and the quiet certainty that the truth always leaves a paper trail. And this trail led straight to the courtroom. Not an elaborate lie, not a mastermind's lie, the kind of lie that comes from someone who started down a road, got in deeper than they intended, and kept hoping they wouldn't have to account for it fully. The kind of lie that unravels the moment someone applies real scrutiny. How does this change things? I asked. It doesn't change the math, Paul said. Irene already had the math. What it changes is the judge's disposition. Brian does not like it when people lie in sworn filings. She's gonna know Amanda lied. That matters at sentencing. At distribution. He shook his head slightly. Sorry, I meant at distribution. The Davidson County Circuit Court on 2nd Avenue was busy that morning. I arrived at 8:15 a.m. in a dark gray suit I had bought for a company presentation the previous year. Paul was already in the hallway with a banker's box of documents, printed statements, LLC records, commission logs, and Irene's formal forensic report, which ran to 37 pages. I want to be honest about how I felt that morning, because the story I've been telling might make it sound like I was calm throughout. I wasn't. Not entirely. There were 3 weeks somewhere in August when I seriously considered calling Gwen Partridge myself and asking what the most likely settlement number was. I told Paul. He talked me down, but barely. The legal fees were mounting. The house felt wrong to live in alone. I had started having the specific, circular kind of anxiety that comes from waiting for something you can't control. Paul had said, "Let the math do its job." And I had said it to myself every morning after that, like a form of prayer. Amanda arrived at the courthouse with Gwen Partridge. I had not seen her since the evening she'd left. She looked tired in a way she hadn't before. The kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. Judge Carol Bryan took the bench at exactly 9 a.m. She was known in Nashville legal circles for being direct, efficient, and unsympathetic to financial gamesmanship in divorce proceedings. She had been on the bench for 19 years. Paul had told me before we filed, "She's seen every angle. She does not reward cleverness." Gwen Partridge opened first. She argued that the joint account withdrawals were a reasonable protective measure, that the LLC had been established as a legitimate business entity, and that Amanda's commissions, while earned during the marriage, had been invested in a professional enterprise and could not simply be recategorized as personal marital income. Paul waited. When it was our turn, he walked Judge Bryan through the timeline in careful, unhurried steps. The LLC registration, August 2022. The first commission redirect to AW Holdings, September 2022. The total accumulated, $340,000. The joint account withdrawals in the 2 days before filing, $128,386. The wire transfer receipt from the printer tray, printed at the couple's shared home on May 13, 2024, which had prompted the initial investigation. He placed a copy in front of Judge Bryan. She looked at it. Then she looked at Gwen Partridge. "Counselor," she said, "your client's initial financial affidavit did not disclose this entity. The supplemental affidavit, produced September 4th, claims $87,000 in business expenses against $340,000 in receipts and double counts at least $14,000 in deductions already claimed on personal returns. Is your client prepared to reconcile those figures today?" Partridge said that her client stood by the affidavit as submitted. Judge Bryan looked at the affidavit for a long moment, then set it down. "Proceed." Paul called Irene Chase as an expert witness. Irene was as composed on the stand as she was anywhere else. She walked through the forensic report methodically, every commission, every transfer date, every dollar. She explained how Tennessee marital property law applied to income earned during marriage regardless of the account it was deposited into. She explained the double-counted deductions line by line. Amanda's attorney's cross-examination lasted 40 minutes and gained very little ground. At one point, Partridge asked whether it was possible some LLC income represented earnings not yet realized at the time of marriage. Irene looked at her and said, "The commission statements show payment dates. All $340,000 was earned and received between September 2022 and May 2024. The couple married in June 2016. The math is not complicated." Amanda took the stand in the afternoon session. Paul's cross-examination was precise and patient. "Mrs. Mercer, your tax returns for 2022 and 2023 list your real estate commission income as $28,000 and $31,000 respectively. The AW Holdings account received $340,000 over that same period. Your affidavit claims $87,000 in business expenses. What happened to the remaining $253,000? Amanda said the funds had been held in the account as business reserves. Business reserves for what purpose? She said for future property investment opportunities. And in the 2.5 years the LLC operated, were any properties purchased through AW Holdings LLC? Pause. Not yet. So $253,000 in marital income was designated as reserves for a purpose that never occurred, in an account your husband was unaware of, while you simultaneously withdrew $128,000 from your joint accounts in the 2 days before filing for divorce. It was not a question. Paul let it sit. Partridge objected. Judge Bryan overruled. The courtroom was quiet. She delivered her ruling on October 2nd, 2024. I sat in the same courtroom in the same gray suit and listened. Judge Bryan was measured. She was not theatrical. She spoke in the steady, precise language of someone who has made hundreds of rulings and understands that the language of the ruling is itself a legal document. She found that AW Holdings LLC had been funded entirely with marital income. She found that Amanda's initial failure to disclose the entity and the inaccuracies in her supplemental affidavit constituted a deliberate pattern of non-disclosure. She noted the timing. The LLC registration shortly after joining a new agency, the commission redirects beginning immediately, the joint account withdrawals made simultaneously with the divorce filing. The court finds that the assets held in AW Holdings LLC, $340,000, are marital property subject to equitable distribution, she said. The court further finds that the withdrawals made from the joint accounts on May 13th and 14th, 2024, totaling $128,386, were made without mutual consent and must be restored to the marital estate for distribution. She paused to turn a page. Given the respondent's demonstrated pattern of non-disclosure and the inaccuracies identified in her sworn affidavit, the court is awarding petitioner's counsel fees in the amount of $18,500 to be paid from the respondent's share of the marital estate. The court is also applying an adverse inference ruling. Where the respondent has failed to adequately account for certain disbursements, the court will assume those funds were dissipated and assign them accordingly. Total marital estate for distribution: approximately $498,000, including the house, valued at $412,000 with $190,000 remaining on the mortgage and the cash assets. Judge Bryan awarded Kyle 60% of the marital estate, citing the non-disclosure, the affidavit inaccuracies, and the unilateral withdrawals. He was awarded the house outright, with Amanda required to relinquish her claim in exchange for an offset payment. Amanda was ordered to pay $272,000 from the LLC funds and her own assets to settle the estate. Kyle walked out of the courthouse feeling a mix of relief and quiet satisfaction. The math was on his side. The house was his. The funds were restored. The unfair moves were corrected. Back home, he repainted the living room on a Saturday, ordered pizza, and played a good playlist. Took most of the day. Kyle's friend Theo stopped by to help with a wall. They talked about work, the NBA season, and travel plans. Normal things. Good things. "You're doing all right," Theo said, looking around the freshly painted room. "Yeah," Kyle said. "I really am." She thought she had taken everything. She just forgot who she married. "My best quality as an accountant and probably as a person is that I don't panic when the numbers look bad. I slow down. I look for what I might have missed. I follow the trail to wherever it leads." Amanda didn't plan a perfect crime. She made a series of decisions that each felt small and defensible on their own. Open an LLC for commission management, redirect some income, protect herself as the marriage deteriorated. Each step made sense to her in the moment. What she didn't account for was that small decisions leave trails, and trails have a way of being read by people who know how to read them. She thought she had taken everything. She just forgot who she married. "I am not the kind of man who yells. I am not the kind of man who threatens. I am the kind of man who prints out 6 months of bank statements on a Wednesday night, makes a table on a legal pad, and photographs the results before anyone else is awake." Would you have settled or taken it to court? She thought she'd taken everything. What she really did was leave a paper trail. If the story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The truth has a way of finding the surface, no matter how carefully someone tries to bury it.